It's Saturday, ladies and gents. We have Pocket Change Market Report, the last final one that I am ever going to do in the month of September. Gotcha. September 28th, 2024. Man, this month was a total blur. I'll be honest. We were talking about the transition from summer into this fall season. Traditionally, a lot of people are back out in the market. They're back into the hobby. Precious metals kind of angling here, jockeying for position and what it means, the tug and pull effect on not only the collectible coin market, but everything else that's kind of attached to that. Errors and varieties and all that great stuff. I could say this for certain: the overall general feel of the market and the mood on eBay when it comes to die varieties and min errors has been pretty good. It's been just trucking along. It's not overperforming. There's not any one type of coin that's splashy at the moment. We're just seeing a just good solid amount of activity across the board, and it really says a lot. It really does. When there are people that are trying to fake errors and trying to pass off different types of weird coins as being a variety or error when in reality they're not. And there's a pretty substantial pacing in that, you know, the market's healthy. So we're going to talk about some of my favorites. We got 25 listings all within the last day or so from eBay. Which represents a lot of finds right out of circulation. That's the cool part. But also, and this I'm putting this video up moments before I leave for the Sacramento Valley Coin Club show. Last day of the event. It's a 3-day event. I was there yesterday, and I'm gonna do just the very practice of cherry picking some coins that otherwise have gone unnoticed by dealers, and that's something that is quite commonplace today, as dealers really traditionally, they don't have the time to look for such things. They call it like picking fly poop out of mashed potatoes. But they prefer to sell things that are quick and easy: silver, precious metals, high end tier collectible coins, things that move and are much more liquid at a rapid pace. But the coins that we talk about here today, you have to utilize the online marketplace to make the cogs of these wheels work. All right. If we're looking to supplement our incomes heading into the holidays, this is going to be one of those methods of doing so. And the cool part is every single coin on the list, every single paper money currency, error, or variety, they're all ungraded. All right. Keep the money in your pocket. So another place I love to sell on to help supplement my eBay sales is this platform called Whatnot. I wanted to talk about it for a moment. So we are coming up to the tail end of the September Showdown event. All right. So I've talked about it. We have had some wildly awesome, just overall activity from all the shows that I've done. I've actually scaled down and have done smaller mini shows, but have done more of them through the week. Some will have 20, 40, 50 items, okay, and not the 100, that I used to do before. So we're packing it in. Last day of the event is September 30, and that's going to be the very day that we are going to announce the winners. So how this all works, I might squeak in one more show. It might be a late night Saturday night show. I know we have a function to go to, so I don't know how that's going to work tonight. But also Sunday might be an opportunity, but football games are happening, and it's traditionally a slower day of the week. But we'll see. Give everyone an opportunity to get some entries into the finale event where we give away over $1,500 in coins and paper money back to the people that have bought from me for the month of September. So we're going to have that event on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do the draws live on the show. If you want to take part of it, come join up. I'll have my referral links down below in the description box to become a buyer or a seller. Okay, I'll talk about the promotions. If you want to join up as, just to buy stuff, sign up under me. You get $15 off your first purchase immediately. as a new buyer, use my link down below. And then Whatnot is looking for motivated sellers throughout the holiday season. They're ready to put their money where their mouth is. And how they're doing that is they're going to match up to $150 through the first 7 days of sales. So that first show that you do, you sell $150 or more in items, that $150, they will double it up for you. So it's almost going to be like making $300 in sales as opposed to just the $150. So that's a pretty cool event. It's a limited time only offering. I have a feeling it's only going to be for probably 30 or 60 days. We'll see. Now's the time to strike. Use this as a supplement to your eBay and take home some money for the holidays. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. I know you guys are waiting. Okay, we have a pretty interesting one here that we have never talked about on a PCMR. And it's a 1983 S proof Washington quarter. Okay, and probably you had already noticed on this particular coin the absence of some of the cameo frost on a few of the devices on the obverse. Most notably, the 1 in the date, the I and N, God we trust, and then a little bit of weakness on the Liberty part. All right, so this could probably be attributed maybe to a little bit of a clogged die effect with a little bit of grease. Now, since these particular dies are prepped specifically for proof strikes, okay, they have to sit there and really polish the fields to create the mirrored effect. All right, they still have to use abrasives and grease to really make the machinery work. All right, in spite of the fact that every coin is struck twice for maximum kind of appearance to it. So this one right here, quite interesting. Usually when you see something like this, there's a couple different things that could be happening here. What's also pretty neat is the fact that this is a full set. So you're getting all 5 coins of the 1983 proof set. You're not just getting the one singular quarter. So because of that, this one ended up selling for $30, okay? Whereas a traditional non-error 1983 proof set in today's market goes for around $8. So they're not crazily, terribly expensive, but if you do recognize a mint error, something like this, you can turn around and make it work for you on the secondary market. In this case, this person almost 4x their money, provided that they did get it for $4. Sometimes you can get them for a lot cheaper than that. But pretty cool way to start things off here with something that we don't see too often. I would say just be a little bit more studious, be more aware that these type of coins even exist on some of the most higher quality product that the mint cranks out every single year. The next one that we have here is one that we've seen before. I figure, everyone that comes up on the marketplace will talk about it, because the prices do fluctuate depending on grade. 2005 P Washington quarter. This is the West Virginia statehood type. And if you look there on the reverse, right around the 4 o'clock position on the New River Gorge, you can see actually a cut die break. That's a actual piece of the die had fallen off due to wear and tear. And when it produces the final product, you're going to get this raised metallic blob on there. That's actually the nickel composition of the coin. So when there's an empty cavity on the die and it strikes the coins with all of the tremendous amount of pressure that each and every strike delivers to produce the final product, obviously there's going to be some shifting and metal flow going on here. So if there's a empty cavity in the die, all the metal flow will go into that area, kind of like a path of least resistance. So there are quite a few of these to meet demand, obviously. So, they're not terribly expensive, but please do recognize that these are worth a whole lot more than a quarter. This one sold for $6.50 with a couple of bids, keeping in mind that much nicer quality pieces, much bigger cut die breaks will command more money in the marketplace. And we also talk about older coins. Now, traditionally, you would cherry pick coins like this at, coin shows, all right? And that's where you can recognize the ability to kind of like, I guess, turn water into wine, or, something to that effect, where you could really make a huge impact on your wallet. 1852 braided hair, large set, one of my favorite coins to not only cherry pick, but to also collect into. Any large copper coin is simply amazing. So this one right here, as you can tell, the reverse is rotated counterclockwise by about, I don't know, 46 degrees. The seller had specified 30 degrees, but it looks to be a lot more than that. I'm thinking more like 45, 50 degrees counterclockwise. Now keep in mind, the coin is in beautiful shape. It's a nice like AU 53-ish type grade. So it's going to be a high grade as it sits. Rotated dies kind of grow on trees on much older coins because the quality control nobody really cared about, right? So a lot of these do tend to pop up on much older coins. Uh, you know, just the other day, I ended up finding an 1862 2-cent copper that was rotated 180 degrees. All right, so it actually had more medallic alignment than it did coin turn. But in any event, this one right here, great sale, $126.36. Probably a little bit of that we could say is a little bit of a premium based off of the mint error on this one. But overall, it's a beautiful piece. Now, traditionally, I don't like talking about these because they're neither an error or a variety. It's a 1969S Lincoln Memorial set. Now, obviously, we know about the big doubled die chaser of this date. It's a coin that's worth many tens of thousands of dollars. What's kind of like mistaken here and kind of tossed into the mix as something that is very similar to that FS101 DDO is the machine doubled coins. All right, so this one you can tell looks a little bit doubled, but that's only because you have machine doubling on here. That's going to actually take away from the overall size of the numbers and the mint mark. All right, so make them thinner. You know, you're going to get kind of like this flat shelf-like doubling on these coins. 69S is kind of a notorious date. Another big one is 57D. These are two dates where we find a lot of these MD coins. Again, it's neither a variety or an error. It's just plain simple damage, through the minting process of the coin. So I was more than a little shocked, but not really, that this one sold for $34.95. There are a very small community of people out there that like this. All right, and that's all well and fine. You collect what you like. And I think it was probably 5-6 years ago where we witnessed a just absolute high-end machine doubled 69S that sold for like $1,000. So that kind of like spurred a conversation as far as like the collectability and the viability of such coin out there in the collectible universe. So I figure I'd bring this one up. We don't see them nearly as often as we used to. And $35 is still a strong amount of money for a coin that, myself, I find to be worth, a penny. Because, it's not a recognized variety or anything like that. Although people are lobbying for this to become an error. We'll see. And of course, I love great woody wood grain toned type of Lincoln cents. We also see these on like nickels and things like that as well. So this one looks like a birch tree bark. It's pretty cool. It's a 1934 Lincoln wheat cent. How this all occurs is in the metal mix. They actually give it a term called improper alloy mix. And when they were producing and mixing all the metals to make the composition work, back in the early days, they used to add a very small amount of tin or zinc to the copper mix to help bind it, to strengthen it, before they rolled it out and do all that great stuff. So they don't really mix well together. It's almost like oil and water. So when that occurs, this is the kind of like end product that you get here with that poor mix of the tin or zinc in with the copper. So it really produces a very attractive looking coin that's more artistic in nature. And there is quite a bit of folks that are starting to collect into woody wood grains. People are doing it by date, and I know myself, I'm collecting these as well. I prefer to find them more so selling them, but it used to be these things were a couple bucks back in the day. We're talking like as recently as like 5-6 years ago. These were like $2-3 coins, but times are changing. All right, we've seen these sell for as high as a few $100s, depending on date. Date still does matter here, folks. This one right here, very attractive. This is a very deep looking woody. $27.97 is a pretty big sale for a coin that at one point was a song and a dance. All right, and then there were a number of pretty cool looking delaminations, planchet defects. Here's one here in 1940D. You can see on the reverse. Again, this is something that is quite common on these, and some would say that laminations are kind of like scraping the barrel of US Mint errors. So we have a defective planchet, just due to impurities in the alloy mix. This one right here has been through many hands. This one sold for $12.45. These are starting to kind of trickle up in the trending charts. Again, much like the Woody Wood grainers, these things used to be $1 or $2. All right. And then now all of a sudden people are paying $10, $20, $30, $40 for them. Yeah, the world has gone crazy all of a sudden. Could this be kind of a push-pull effect from precious metals and overall sentiment of the hobby being pretty decent right now? Here's another one here, 1920S. You can see the lamination right there on the obverse. Laminations usually on the obverse of the coin is going to factor in more heavily on the sale price than as if it were on the reverse. So I wanted to let you guys know that. Kind of a tougher date. This one sold for $15.45. So again, it's a coin that most people wouldn't think twice about. Some people who's never collected into the hobby will look at this and say, man, that thing's damaged. But in reality, it's not. More lamination. How about on a Silver War nickel? All right. The wartime silver manganese alloys. They didn't bond and adhere to itself very well. So we do find a lot of weird, freaky laminations on the silvers. 43p, we could see it there on the reverse. Pretty powerful looking coin. $14.95 for a coin otherwise it's worth maybe $2. Paper money. Okay, not the best looking representative piece of what we call a gutter fold error. It's got a pretty good tear there on the top left area. Someone took a bite out of that, but on the other corner, the top right, you could see that gutter fold, which was at one point a wrinkle or a fold in the sheet that was just simply printed over. 88A $1 bill. This one sold for $60.99, coming off of 12 bids, and you have a really interesting shape of the note on the reverse, minus the tear that you see there on the top right corner. Okay, so again, another very interesting note, and one in which still has a pretty good market at the lower levels. And here's one that time forgot. My goodness. I remember when this one first came out a couple years ago, people really liked it. And I think it's more of a, kind of a carryover of the Tuskegee Airmen quarters that had the burning building. It's the same premise. It's what they call a field restricted strike through. And that's just some grease that was on the die that was pushed around with a feeder finger, creating kind of like different, amalgamous type of shapes. Here's one right here, 2022p, Sally Ride quarter. Again, this is a quarter everybody had forgotten by now. It's coming up on 3 years old, people. I mean, that's how quickly the market and life and just the years kind of like, progress. It's sad to think about, honestly. But anyways, let's take a trip down memory lane with this one. So the red arrow represents the strike through. It's going through the ponytail of Mr. Washington there and into his neck area. So this one sold for $15.98. I've seen a few examples here in the last like 30 to 60 days that have hit kind of like $30. Condition is everything. While this one looks really good, I've seen a little bit better pieces hit a little bit higher money. And another neat one here, 1963 series dollar bill with a pretty gross misalignment of overprint shifted all the way to the right. All right, so what the marker I like to use when it comes to misalignment is the green district seal on the right side. Usually that is supposed to be well centered within that denominational word. Okay, in this case, one, spelt out O-N-E. That green seal normally would be right smack dab in the middle, and then everything else kind of shifts along with it. All right, so that's why I like to use this one. Is shifted all the way to the right. At this point, you have a lot of elements of the overprint overlapping this first initial print on the front of the note. And the note is in great shape. I mean, I would call this one a high-end VF, maybe an XF40 on any given day. It's a beautiful looking piece. How about $162.50? They're a really hot, solid market right now. And most of the examples I've seen have sold kind of within like 2 to 5 days. They don't spend a lot of time on eBay. It's probably one of the quickest turning pieces that I have noticed here recently. Here's another one here. Some would say this is more of a miscut, and I would probably agree. But again, if we're using the green seal there on the right, we notice some misalignment of some sort. Okay, so we have to kind of acknowledge that. There's a reverse there for you, showing a pretty thick, large right margin, which would indicate, maybe a miscut here. So we can't deny that. This one sold for $59.25. It does have a few little small light stained areas on the note, but outside of that, another pretty good one here to show off. And another one that time forgot. I didn't forget, but it's the 2021 P Washington Crossing the Delaware Design Reverse Crown Die Chip. It's not the full, big, large crown that we all want to find. And believe it or not, these are still out there for the taking. Okay, these are very much in circulation. Try and find them now while the condition of the coins are still somewhat attractive. Because after about 4 or 5 years, the coins all tend to get really beat up. This is actually a good looking one here. You can see that large formation of a die chip right on top of Washington's hat. And the much larger progressed examples actually go into E pluribus unum. All right, so those are the kind of like the big crown jewels of, crown jewel, right? That's like the biggest, largest progression, and the one that's most desirable. But this one right here, it's as if it was 2021 again. This one sold for $35. And that was usually the going rate for this medium-sized crown die chip anyways during that time. So, I don't know. Someone must really need this, or they're collecting a progression set of this. It's pretty cool, It's something that kind of sticks out, and I know, it's very easy to see with the naked eye, so you definitely don't need a magnifier to make the fireworks happen. So that's a pretty cool one there. Holy lamination, Batman. This delamination 1943p Jefferson nickel, back to Civil War time, baby. You can see that on the obverse. Nearly, I would say 60% of that obverse layer had flaked off. Man, that is awesome. So this one right here, actually they said it's a 1945, and it is. It looks like a 45. This one sold for $37.75. So, again, this is something that's quite common. I've owned many war nickels that look like this. I even had some that were fully 100% flaked off on one side, whether it's the reverse or the front of the coin. It doesn't really matter. I've done really well selling these. So if you do come across them, just know they're cash money. They're worth way more than melt. They're worth way more than face value. And they are something that is, kind of a interesting collectible niche in the marketplace today, and people are willing to spend a little bit more for things like this. And very attractive. Anytime you find an off-center struck Lincoln wheat cent back, that's quite special. I've actually owned a few 1945 off-center struck coins. This one is actually really nice. I would say it's off-center by about 20%. Full readable date, mint mark. It's problem-free. Usually you see like scrapes and scratches on these. Not so on this one. And because of that, it sold for $109.79. Seems like a lot of money, but keep in mind, folks, these are collected by date. If someone needs a 45 that looks as good as this, they will pay all the money in the world to own it. Well, up to $105 or whatever it is. Yeah, I juke you guys. 1990 $20 bill, old head design. Yeah, another grossly misaligned. This time, the base print, all the black ink with the Andrew Jackson portrait was the misalignment here on this one. The overprint is actually perfectly centered for the note. So when we look at the back, it's pretty good. It's got some margins on there, a little bit kind of wonky off center. Not too bad though. This one here, pretty nice solid sale at $208.28 off of 40 bids. Boy, there was a lot of activity on this one. And paper money errors, it's on this like runaway train right now. When it will end, it will really depend on how much track is remaining. We'll see. And a beautiful cut, man. I haven't seen this one in a minute. 1944 P Lincoln Wheat Cent. The cut die break is right over the "We Trust." In God we trust. You can see "in God," but the other two words missing there. So that's a nice kind of like long cut die break off of that one there. This one, $55.24. Cuds are king, guys. What can I say? They are some of the most wildly consistent, high priced errors in today's market, whether they're graded or not. All right. So you love to see that. We've seen quite a few raw examples as well of much bigger, larger die cuts or cut die breaks that have sold for many hundreds of dollars. So, and Roosevelt dimes getting some love. They've been getting some love ever since the announcement that the Mint was going to redesign the Roosevelt dime for the semi-quincentennial anniversary in 2026. So now all of a sudden people are like paying more, better, closer attention to all different types of Roosevelt dimes, from registry set, high-end graded pieces, to mint errors, to varieties, you name it. 89 Denver. How often do we see a Denver off-center struck Roosevelt dime? This thing is like 60% off-center. Very cool coin here. How about a sale of $28? Okay, pretty good. I mean, this used to be one that sold for like 10, $15 about a year ago. And then with that announcement, things just kind of picked up steam in the marketplace for such pieces. And one of my favorites, I mean, this is a very wholesome 1857 braided hair, large cent. It's a much tougher date, too. It's the last year of this large format copper. Okay. The price to create and make large cents became way too expensive. It's kind of like today's modern mess of, paying 8-9 cents for every penny that's produced. I mean, that's a net loss, like in a large way. But back in the day, they also encountered that too. It used to be that every single large cent had 1 cent of copper based off of that current market. And now in 1850s something, it became way too expensive. It became like 3 cents, per large cent. I know, like, first world problems, right? So 1857 is a grossly under minted date that comes in both small and large dates. It's a very fun coin. This one is also the Newcomb 4 variety. I don't know what die pairing that is, but it's a very charming looking piece. And they're all pretty expensive. 1857 is a pricey date. $254.99 off of a couple bids. Yeah, that's the market for these. Much lower graded pieces, are still going to be 100 plus. If you need it, as a kind of like a hole filler in a set, yeah, that would be the expectation of what you would pay for a 57. They're just not cheap. And a cool one here, although this one is plagued with carbon on both the front and back of the coin. It's got a fingerprint on the back and a carbon spotting on the front, but this is one of the coolest varieties. 1988, it's a Philadelphia. It's a little bit tougher one, I believe. This one has the transitional reverse of 89, also called the flared G type, which is the G of Frank Gasparo's initials, is going to have that drop down gusset on there that shows a flare to it. It's the FS 901 Cherry Picker's Guide variety, $23.24. Great price considering its issues that it has, but outside of that, it's a good example. 1979 Lincoln Memorial, off center by about 60%, and it's got some damage on the reverse. Probably went through a coin counter that created that. All right, so it's not the perfect example, but here's what I could tell you. As recent as this date looks and appears, it's actually very scarce. We don't see too many 1979 off center struck Lincolns, and this is a necessity in those date sets out there. So this one sold for $40. Okay, pretty easy to see why. Even with the damage, it's still an overperforming coin by today's standards. And here is one that I friggin' forgot that even existed. Last time that I saw a 2021p Jefferson nickel with this particular error, it was probably 2 years ago. You know, there might have been one or two that have sold since then, but I don't think people are paying close enough attention, or are they giving this one the respect it deserves? What am I talking about here? It looks like just a standard 2021 nickel. Rotated dies reverse. You know, it's something to be said about rotated die errors in that, you know, it's laziness is going to play a huge factor in whether you find this or not. If you're lazy, you're never going to find these. If you're tenacious and kind of a completionist, you're going to rotate every single one of these nickels around as you hunt through them. And it's cumbersome. It takes a lot of time. But the rewards are beneficial. Like, you know, these, every time you find one of these, they're like 30, $40 a piece. You know, and if you happen to catch, you know, some BU rolls that have maybe one or two in a roll, and you had like 50 rolls, and you find a couple of them in every single box or every single roll, I mean, that could play in huge, very big into, you know, whatever you want to save up for. You know, $30, $40 a pop. And this is a circulated one. Can you imagine how much an uncirculated rotated dies 21p would go for today? Probably double that. You know, I mean, the last one I've seen was like $60, you know, for an unk version. So this one's rotated by about 45 degrees or 46 degrees, as this person had put in their listing. There's a couple different ways to photograph this. They use the mirror trick with some kind of like wooden bamboo tongs there. But also doing the 2x2 trick also works just as well. Now the coin still looks BU. It does have some contact marks and a little bit of circulation wear. So it's probably a net graded mid-state 63 example, which is not terribly crazy, but still very fine and acceptable to a collector. This one here is sold for $34.88. So that's hitting right, kind of like right in that middle area of my range. All right, so yeah, that's a pretty cool trick with the 2x2 cardboard holders there. Wow, another one. I mean, it was just like a couple days ago I saw one of these sold, and here we are with another dateless Washington quarter with a ginormous cut die break right over the date. Man, these things are awesome. I've never owned one of these, and one day I will. All right, but the prices suggest that they are just going to keep on appreciating. This one is sold for $138.95. I remember the time, ladies and gentlemen, when these things sold for under $100, and I felt like that was way too much. But it's a very noteworthy mint error, one that is getting all the attention it deserves. You know, well done. Yeah, speaking of just out of nowhere listing, 2022D Lincoln Shield Scent with a pretty crazy looking strike through and a lot of grease on the dies here, especially on that obverse, a little bit on the reverse, nothing too crazy, but yeah, nice strike through. Nice price too. How about $134.36? I mean, is that what they normally go for? Well, someone surely paid the price for this one. And it's not something we see every day, especially on a Denver, you know. A coin that's barely 2 years old, you know, kind of making that kind of stride. Sign me up. And the final coin for the day, how about another one of these blind bats? We haven't talked one of these in a while, and this is not the most impressive largest strike through on Miss Mama Bat there on the reverse, right on the face. And man, these things are cool. One day I will own one. I have one on my search list. I'm just looking at it, but it's like a $400 coin for the big one, the big strike through on there. This one right here, it's what we call the medium one. Um, so yeah, I mean, this was a big, huge headline coin back in 2020 to go along with all the West Points that they released. Seemed like a lifetime ago. But anyways, $98.99 for the sale on this one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we end the weekend edition of the PCMR. I'm going to get ready for a coin show, if you know what I mean. But information provided is for educational use only, not financial advice. Please collect and or grade your coins responsibly. You know the spiel. And that's it, guys. I'm your host, Sean with Blue Ridge. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell. You know what it does. And yeah, collect this weekend. Go for it. Go for the gold. Don't sit there and settle for anything different. I will see you guys later. Enjoy this hobby and take care.